welcome everybody. This is Chef Bravo for Bravo Plant-Based Channel and BravoPB.com. We're going to be playing with some beets today. This is how you would find them at the store. The very first thing I'll tell you is not to waste your beet greens. Okay, these are absolutely delicious. Treat them like you would Swiss chard. These don't cook very quickly. What I'll do is I'll sort of cut the tip there. I'll leave about that much off on the stem, and then at home put them in a pot with a steamer basket insert, okay, ideally, and then cover them, turn the pot on, and it takes about 35-40 minutes for them to cook, which means at home you would probably have to refill that pot a few times so that the steam continues. One thing I like to suggest is that you don't boil them. It is an easy way to cook them. However, when you boil them, you lose a lot of the color and flavor to the water, which I'd rather not do. I'm gonna prep for one of the dishes here real quick. So I'm gonna take my beets here, and at this point they're fairly soft, probably the resistance of a nice ripe tomato. Okay, they're not hard at all. So I'm going to cut them in eighths, and then what I have here is a tray with some paper towels. Okay, so this is sort of a way in which a lot of restaurants do their beets, their red beets, because they are so, they have so much color. Okay, so a lot of times when you go to a restaurant, you get order a beet salad, which is sort of one of the ones we're going to do. You see that the colors don't start to run all over the place, and you're wondering, I wonder how they do that, because when I go, I get red everywhere. So this is one of the ways in which they do it. I've got a yellow one here. So sort of same thing, I'm just gonna clip the top and the bottom, and I should be able to peel most of it here with my fingers. If you have to scratch a little bit with the knife, that's fine. Just cut this guy in eighths. This is also going to go on the paper towels. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. We'll leave it alone for a little bit, and then we'll get started on the other dish. Okay, in this bowl here, what I have is some cabbage that I shredded. I have a carrot here. This is one of Mauricio's dishes. You guys all know Mauricio, the sous chef here. Great guy, makes my life so much easier than it should be. Okay, so this is what this dish is called, a Cortido. Okay, it's a C-U-R-T-I-D-O, and it's essentially a very traditional dish that they use in El Salvador. This is sort of like a coleslaw, a pickled sort of thing. So that when it's served along with all the other heavy stuff at the table, it's just a little bit of nice vinegar kind of thing to cut everything down, all that oily, fatty stuff that serves. So it's very similar to like a escabeche kind of thing. A lot of cultures do that sort of thing. A little bit of kimchi, that nice fermented sort of thing, to cut down on the fattiness of the meat or whatever else. Yeah. So I have here my Japanese mandolin. Check the thickness. All right. So now that I have the carrots in there, mixed with the white of the cabbage, just by adding the carrot, it sort of pops right away, because the colors sort of bounce off each other. See that? Okay. All right, to this, we're going to add some rice vinegar. We're also going to add some dried oregano. And to this, I believe he likes to add some, just a touch of red pepper flakes, okay, for a little bit of the spicy touch. I figured you guys probably want to sample that, so I was going to leave that out just for now. But we will talk about it. Okay. Now, I'm going to take one of my beets here, and just like I did with the carrots, I'm going to do a nice shred. So this is a dish that you would normally see here that we serve fairly often. As they make it in El Salvador, there is, instead of the vinegar, what they'll do is they'll take some pickled jalapenos, okay, and they'll use a lot of that juice. So that's the vinegar plus the jalapenos, which then get chopped up, and so that there's a spicy factor in there. So it's essentially a combination of spicy with the sour from the vinegar, and then the sweetness from the beets. Okay, that's really all it is. It's just a let's put something sweet, sour, and spicy together. Okay.
So you do not use the pickled jalapenos here because there's so much sodium.
There's so much sodium in there, and then we try not to go too heavy on the spicy.
Oh.
So when he sort of adapted the dish to be able to serve it here, that's when the tiny bit of the red pepper flakes come in. Yeah, but normally that's how they do the pickled jalapenos. Okay, so now as this goes is you would want to let this sit for 30-ish minutes, okay, to allow for the vinegar to start interacting with the beets and for it to pickle the cabbage a little bit, soften it up, so to speak. Make sense? Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna set that guy off to the side. For the raw, what I have here is a yellow one. A lot of times with beets, in the raw form, in the raw state, they're not so sweet, but more of a astringent kind of a flavor, which is not totally unpleasant if you combine them with the right flavor profiles. Okay. But one thing I want to do is I just want to take a piece and taste it and just sort of gauge the level of that astringent factor. So what these guys, I'm getting mostly sweet. There's hardly any of that astringent sort of flavor. Which is kind of a bummer because I was counting on it. So I have my beets in here. Now, I am going to utilize the same thought process that I did for that Cortido as I'm doing here. So as I mentioned before, I'm not necessarily showing you specific recipes. It's just more of the thought process. Okay. So beets, sweet. Okay. Now I'm going to add some sour in the form of apple cider vinegar. So that goes in. I like to add a little bit of spice to this. So along with this, I have some Indian spice here, which is a combination of cumin, coriander, turmeric, and mustard seeds. So I'm adding that in there. So now I have this sort of sweet, sour, and sort of pungent kind of thing, just like what I had there. To it, as you can see here, there's like nothing but yellow. I'm dying for some color in here. So I'm gonna add some fresh parsley leaves. I brought a plum, which they're at the end of their season. So with this one, I'm gonna do some diced. Okay. And so what I'm really after here is the dark skin of the plums themselves, so that when I add it to this, I get that nice color contrast that I'm looking for. All right. And so that's about it. I don't need to complicate this too much. Okay. Maybe what I'll do is, just because I have them here, I have some shallots. Okay. I might do some slices of shallot in here real quick, just for a little bit of depth of flavor. At this point, I don't need them for color. I have enough color variation. But now the shallots are adding in these sort of rings in there, so it's a different sort of texture and a different geometric sort of shape. I got the yellow, I got the green, I got that dark sort of purple spots there. That's about all I need. I got the sweet, I got the sour, I got that sort of spicy there from the Indian spice. Okay. Leave that right on the top. That's about it. Very sort of simple salad. I can add a little bit more of the Indian spice there just to give it a little bit of a garnish. Okay. Very, very simple. It doesn't need to be like overly complicated. I find that sometimes when you have these sort of recipes, which there's a lot of great ones, you know, I myself have put together recipes that require 15, 20 ingredients. It can easily become too much. It's like at a certain point, you're not exactly sure what you're tasting because there's just so much, you know, so much information that you're trying to process as your taste buds are trying to tell the brain, well, there's so much in here. Okay. So sometimes something simple, I think there was like 4 or 5 ingredients in here. That's more than plenty. Okay. For a simple salad here. Okay. So there's the raw sort of slaw, and now there's the semi-raw, or we'll call this the raw beet slaw, cooked beet slaw. I'm gonna do a final salad here, sort of like what you would find at a restaurant, especially this time of year. All the menus are about to change. So I'm gonna make a very quick lemon thyme sort of dressing. So here I have a empty bowl. I just did some fine diced shallots here. I got a lemon. We're gonna do a little bit of lemon zest in here. So a little bit of lemon juice. Good. And I have some thyme here, some fresh thyme.
What was that first thing you put in there?
The first thing, the shallots.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit of that. So thyme goes in here. So now what I have here is the sort of lemon thyme, sour, and that earthy kind of flavors put together. The shallots are there again, just for like a depth of flavor. Okay, to add to my salad, I have here some arugula, some baby arugula. So that's gonna be sort of the greens part of the salad. This by itself here now is an amazing sort of side dish, you know, just as nice lemon arugula salad or whatever you want to call it. And we're using yet again the same sort of thought process. The beets are going to be sweet. The lemon here is going to provide the sour, and the arugula provides bitter. Okay, so I'm just putting those three together. That's, that's pretty much it. So although these look very much different from each other, it's the same thought process. So I put a little bit of that in the center. Now, oh shoot, I forgot spoons. So now by putting those on that paper towels, I prevent them from starting to bleed there all over the place. A little bit more of the arugula to give it a little bit of height. Then I'll take my shallots and sort of sprinkle them around. Okay, the ingredient there becomes the actual garnish. Okay. And maybe a little bit of lemon zest around just to make it look pretty. Okay. And now I could charge you $25 for this. But I'm gonna finish it off with a little bit of candied pecans. Okay. See, now I can charge you $30 for that. Okay, so I'll give you guys a view of it. Okay. But again, the thought process is the same, so that when you're at home and you're like, well, he did that with the beets and arugula, but I don't have arugula. But wait, what did he say? Well, the beets are sweet, and then I either have lemon, lime, orange, or some vinegar. Okay, that's gonna be the sour. And then I just gotta bring something else, something that's either bitter or astringent, or maybe something spicy. Oh, I have some peppers in the fridge, perfect. There we go. Okay. So you don't have to. I know that for some people it's like they need to see the recipe and they have to follow it step by step, or else they can't manage. I don't know how people do that. I hardly ever use any cookbooks